It was Maya Angelou who said the popular saying that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Now, have you ever had any experience where someone says something to you, perhaps jokingly, and then you came to realize, or much later or years later, you came to realize that that wasn't actually a joke and that it was a confession? I have a story that will perfectly illustrate this to you, and also pick a few lessons from my story that would also help you reflect better on instances where someone has said something that appeared to be a joke to you, and you later realized that it was a confession. But not only was it a confession, it had layers beneath it than what you thought of at that initial time. Now, I have this male friend. We are still friendly, right? I have this male friend, and he had been asking me out. He has been asking me out for many years, and I keep saying no. But we remain friendly, right? And anytime we call on the phone to catch up and gist, he brings it up again, and then I keep saying no and no and no. As a matter of fact, I think I've been saying no for about 10 to 12 years now, right? Great. Now, I like him as a friend, and I don't feel that we should destroy that friendship by taking it to the relationship angle. And I also generally don't want to have a relationship with this person. Now, every time we speak on the phone to catch up, like, how is life, how are you doing, work and whatnot, he brings it up over and over again, even though I keep saying it repeatedly that I don't want to do this with you. I'm happy with where we are, and a relationship with you is not something I want to pursue. Now, after some time, from the point where he started asking that we get into a relationship, I noticed he started saying things like, you are too proud, you are too proud. If I see you, I'm going to impregnate you. Once I impregnate you, your pride is going to somersault, and you would have nothing to hold on to and be proud about. Now, he said all these things jokingly, right, as part of response to my refusal to be in a relationship with him or dating. And I used to laugh about it. Initially, I would just laugh about it, like, I better get out of here, you don't have sense, and things like that. Great. And the next time we catch up again, he would say something about getting me pregnant to humble me. Like, he would say he would get me pregnant so that it will humble me because my standards are too high. I'm looking for a man that doesn't exist, that when I get pregnant, all these things will not be, things I think about anymore, and saying things like, I feel too much of myself. Now, he says all these things jokingly, and because he's my friend, I don't take it to mean anything. I take it as a joke, right? Now, understand that this is somebody I've been friends with since I was about 22. Should I say 22? Yeah, around that age, 22, 23, right? And he used to joke like this off and on, and I too would laugh about it. Now, the turning point came when one time he mentioned it, and I realized that this is not a joke, and this is actually a threat to me, because it is almost as if my brain clicked that, why is this guy trying to threaten me with pregnancy? And it made me even more cautious, because maybe if I come to town for an interview or for a job, I won't stay at his place or even tell him I'm around, because of all those things he used to say, that if he should catch me, he's going to get me pregnant, and maybe I'll have no choice than to marry him. Things like that I thought was a joke. But all of a sudden, I began to see layers to it that I didn't see initially. And I realized that this is not a joke. Actually, he wants to use pregnancy as a weapon to have me, right? And I decided in my mind that I would never take that joke from him again. And I also interpreted it in another layer as disrespect, right? Like, he didn't respect my boundary. I'd been saying, no, I don't want to do this. But instead of you to accept the answer and move on, you keep pushing, and not only pushing, you disregard and disdain my choices, right? By even going to the extent of saying that I'm feeling too big and proud, and that one pregnancy would humble me. You know, it also gave me the impression, right, that he has this belief that I'm supposed to be controlled. Like, an independent woman is somebody that needs to be, you know, brought under control and, you know, made to comply to what was requested of her. And I'm sorry, I didn't see this initially, right? And that's why I kept joking about it and allowing the joke to last for too long. But all of a sudden, that switch flipped in my head, and I just wasn't taking it anymore. It also felt to me like he had this fantasy of, you know, destabilizing my boundary and being the one that made me lose or change what my values were, or change what I wanted to be, right? Because he kept referring to the pride, like, oh, you are so proud, you are so full of yourself. And I began to interpret it as though he had taken it upon himself and giving himself this personal mission to step me down from that my high horse. He sort of saw my insistence and my confidence in the fact that I didn't want to date him as a character flaw, and took it upon himself, took the responsibility upon himself, or decided that he saw me as a barrier or an obstacle that he was going to surmount. And it also helped me to begin to see how indeed pregnancy can be a threat or a weapon used against a woman to derail her from her dreams, from her goal. And it can be weaponized as a tool, right, to distract women, to like distract women and sort of bind them to men that they normally would not want to have anything to do with, right? That's one layer. The other layer is this: when, as a young lady, and I don't know if this happened to me alone or other people, when I was much younger, if somebody joked with you or told you something about, oh, you'll be the mother of my kids, or I'll get you pregnant, and things like that, you tend to romanticize it, right? But there's nothing romantic about it. I don't see anything romantic about telling a young lady or a girl that you're going to get her pregnant. Formerly, yes, I used to think that it was romantic when I was underdeveloped and was not able to read meaning to things and see things for what they are. But now that I'm able to see it, I don't see somebody telling me that they are going to get me pregnant as a romantic thing. I personally see it as a threat, because indeed pregnancy can be used to weaponize as a weapon against a young lady, or even women in general, whether consciously or unconsciously. But we have this conditioning and cultural belief that it's romantic when somebody tells you that they are going to get you pregnant, and that's why men use it on women, as they think that they are being romantic. They think that they are playing out a romantic script, and women also, we accept it because we've been conditioned to think of it as romantic. Meanwhile, underneath it all, it's a power move, it's a threat, it's a weapon to subdue and keep you distracted from what you would have consciously pursued. Now think about all the, you know, subtle ways, right, that are used to distract women and make women chase things that are not entirely beneficial to them. Things like love, things like relationships, you know, even romance. I want you to think about the broader pattern of what I've just described, right? How things like love, romance, and relationship are used in subtle ways to pull women away from discovering their authentic self and, you know, living their own truth, right? Finding their own purpose and living a life that is meaningful to them on their own terms. I think what I'm trying to say in this video is bring awareness to the fact that some of the things that we've been conditioned and trained to think as romantic, as loving, are actually not entirely loving. They are subtleness to it. There are aspects to it that are hidden from you, from your awareness, and until you pay close attention to it, you may miss it and get carried away with the shine, the romance, and the love that is painted and presented to you, right? The next thing I want to call attention to is being able to read subtext in what people say to you, being able to understand beyond what they are saying superficially. What does this translate to on a deeper level? Because the thing is, people always tell on themselves, right? Whether jokingly or even seriously. But you need to be able to pay attention to what is not being said and quickly interpret what is in it for you, and why is this person making this kind of joke or making this kind of comments about you. Now think about it. If, for example, I had been carried away with the romantic aspects of, oh, the blues of getting me pregnant, I probably have gotten pregnant for him and had no choice but to marry him. Do you see how these things progress? And many ladies have found themselves in this situation where they got carried away by the allure of romance and love, only to find themselves stuck with men that they ordinarily, with their clear head, would not have chosen. Now, what I want you to take away from this video is to learn to pay attention to the subtext and the layers underneath what is being presented to you. Pay attention to jokes that repeat repeatedly. It indicates fixation on a particular outcome. When somebody jokes about you or jokes about doing something to you repeatedly, it may indicate that they are fixating on getting a particular outcome out of you, whether consciously or unconsciously. Pay attention to compliments that are criticism, right, in disguise. For example, him telling me that my pride is too much. Do you understand? It appears like a compliment, but it's also a criticism of, my ability and my independence to exercise that power and say, I don't want to have a relationship with you. And it also touchlights his unsaid need to conquer me, to reduce me and step me down from that place of pride where he feels I'm on, for me to say I don't want to date him, I don't want to have a relationship with him. Pay attention also to romantic interest that escalates very quick. Pay attention to the subtle things that are being communicated into you directly and indirectly. There are subtle ways that people exercise control over you by the things that they say, and then you find yourself making decisions that don't favor you. But because you didn't clock it on time, you go along and think that you consciously chose it. Meanwhile, hints of these things have been placed here and there for you to pick up that ultimately make you make a particular decision that may not contribute to your overall good, but is sort of serving the advantage of the other person more than yours. Now, this is particularly important for women and young ladies. Pay attention to languages or tones that make your independence look like a problem that needs to be corrected. Recognize also that you are not helpless in your life, and that you have the autonomy and the agency to say no to things and stand by it, right? Your reasons are justified. Your justification for taking such actions, you don't need to explain it to somebody just because they call you names and tag you difficult, prideful, rebellious, or independent. Remember the words of Alice Walker, where she said the easiest way people give away their power is by not recognizing that they have power themselves, right? Even when somebody is love bombing you with romantic messages, romantic sweet words and all of that, don't feel like, oh, you are falling away into this. Realize that you can tear this apart and find, is this as equally advantageous to this person as it is to you, right? Tear it apart and make sure that there is something of benefit to you in the equation. In my case, I had to tear it apart and realize that this was just a case of subjugation, desire to control, and to feel that he had made me step down my values, whichever way he had to make it happen, by telling me repeatedly that he was going to get me pregnant. Honestly, I heard it so much that it started to sound like a threat to me. And by the time I clocked this, in our next communication, I spoke to him and warned him and said, I never want to hear you say that to me anymore, because I consider it a threat to my life, a threat to my decision making, and a threat to my independence. Don't ever do that to me again. And thankfully he stopped. Now, to conclude, right, I think I'll conclude by saying this, and it will resonate more to women than men who are watching this video, right? Have you ever, in what ways, this is something I want you to reflect on, in what ways have you been taught to, welcome male attention or attention in general that had ulterior motives that weren't beneficial to you? But you go ahead with the belief that the person didn't have any ulterior motive, but underneath it all there was a target on your freedom, on your decision making, on your agency, your independence, and your well-being. In what ways have you accepted attention that were targeted at reducing your own personal freedom, reducing your own personal decision making, your autonomy, and your power? Think about it. Who does this joke benefit? When you are being made the butt of a joke, who does this joke benefit? Another thing I want you to think about is this: how do people react to your no? Do they respect your boundaries? Do you understand? Or do they try to negotiate with you and make you shift on what you've clearly stated is a value point for you? And beyond externalization, look inward also. In what ways do you say one thing and do another thing? In what way do you betray the boundaries that you have set for yourself? By allowing other people to test when you say no, and then they try to, convince you to say yes, and then you say yes. It reinforces the fact that you can be turned and made to change your mind, even if it's something that matters to you. So especially for things that matter to you, because you can also understand with me in this case that getting pregnant and being with somebody I didn't want to be with was quite an important decision. So you need to be able to form the habit of standing by your no, but you also need to have sat down and thought about what you are going after and make sure that this is where you stand and this is what I want to do. And once you've done that, don't let anybody shift you. There are a ton of messages in this video that you can pick from if you've paid attention, and it will resonate more with some people than others, and that's fine. What I want at the end of the day is for everyone, both male and female, but especially women, because that is the situation and the position I am speaking from, to learn to listen more carefully, to learn to think what's in it for me, to learn to think why are things playing out the way they play out, and to always learn to figure out who does this joke benefit, right? If it comes out as a joke, for example, in my own case, who does this joke benefit? Essentially, learn to listen carefully, yes, to what is being said, but what is also being left unsaid. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.